When a guy is truly deeply in love, one of the clearest signs isn't found in the sweet nothings he whispers or the poetic texts he sends. It's in what he does consistently. Words are easy. They cost nothing, take seconds to say, and can be manipulated. But behavior is honest. Behavior takes effort. Behavior costs. It's a currency of attention, energy, and choice. And when a man is in love, really in love, his behavior starts to reflect it in ways he may not even be consciously aware of. This is the part where you, as a smart, emotionally self-respecting woman, need to pay more attention to patterns than promises. A man can tell you he misses you, but does he make time to see you, even when it's inconvenient? A man can say, you're important to him, but does he show up when it matters? Does he follow through even when he's tired, stressed, or has a dozen other things going on? When he's in love, he starts to shift the way he moves in your world. You'll notice it in small, everyday moments. He listens more closely. He remembers details. What you said in passing 2 weeks ago. What your favorite snack is. The name of that friend you mentioned once. Not because he's trying to impress you, but because he's actually paying attention. That's what love does. It makes you alert to what matters to the other person. And he'll begin to prioritize in ways that make you feel safe. If he used to be flaky, love makes him reliable. If he used to hate texting, love makes him thoughtful with his check-ins. He starts to think, I don't want her to wonder how I feel, so he puts effort into making you feel secure, even if words aren't his strong suit. And if they are his strong suit, you'll notice that his behavior always matches what he says. That's the difference. In love, there's no gap between intention and action. Another telltale sign is how he reacts under stress or distraction. When someone's just infatuated or interested, life can easily knock you off their radar. But when a man is desperately in love, even when he's dealing with pressure at work or family drama, he still finds a way to signal that he's thinking about you. It doesn't have to be dramatic or grand. It could be a just thinking about you text during a long day, or rearranging his schedule to make time for you when things are hectic. That's love in motion. And here's something subtle but powerful. He'll start integrating you into his life in ways that show he's building a bridge between your world and his. You won't have to force it. He'll bring you up in conversations with friends. He'll want you to meet people who matter to him, not to check a box, not to prove a point, but because he genuinely sees you as part of the life he's building. This is behavior that no amount of smooth talking can fake. Sometimes, so often, we get swept up in charm. The flirtation, the compliments, the playful banter. It's easy to confuse all of that for real connection. But love doesn't just flirt, it commits. It doesn't vanish when things get inconvenient. It stays, shows up, shows care, and takes responsibility. If his actions are sporadic, inconsistent, or leave you guessing, it doesn't matter how passionately he says he feels about you. Real love isn't chaotic, it's stable. It's not perfect, but it's intentional. End of the day, what you want to pay attention to isn't just how a man talks when he wants you, it's how he behaves when he already has you. Does he maintain the same energy he used to pursue you? Does he protect your feelings with the same intensity he once used to impress you? That's the magic. That's where love stops being a feeling and starts being a choice. And his actions will tell you everything you need to know. When a man is desperately in love, there's something almost accidental that starts to happen. He begins to reveal parts of himself he usually keeps hidden. These aren't big, dramatic confessions or emotionally loaded speeches. In fact, they often slip out quietly, without fanfare, in ways he may not even notice. They're subtle, small leaks of vulnerability. And if you're really paying attention, these moments can tell you more about his feelings than 1,000 compliments ever could. See, most men are taught, directly or indirectly, to stay guarded, to stay composed, to not show too much too soon, especially when it comes to emotions like fear, insecurity, or need. But love has a funny way of cracking through those defenses. When he's falling hard, the need to connect, to be seen by you, begins to outweigh the instinct to protect his ego. And so, little pieces of his inner world start to show, not because he's weak or uncertain, but because he trusts you enough to be real. You might notice it when he talks about his past. A guy who's normally all about the present suddenly shares something painful from years ago, maybe a heartbreak, a failure, or a tough family situation. He's not telling you to get sympathy. He's not trying to impress you. It's almost like he just wants you to know why he is the way he is. That's a vulnerability leak. And it's not a strategy, it's a side effect of caring deeply, of wanting to be known. Or maybe he lets you in on a fear, not in a dramatic, let's talk about our biggest anxieties kind of way, but in a casual moment like, sometimes I worry I'm not where I should be in my life. Or I get nervous before big meetings, even though I act like I don't. That's not something most men just throw out there. But when he's in love, the armor slips. He might still laugh it off afterward, maybe make a joke out of it, but the leak already happened. You saw it, you saw him. And then there's the future talk, specifically the uncertain future. When a man opens up about not having everything figured out, when he lets you see that he doesn't have all the answers, but still wants to include you in the journey, that's a real sign of intimacy. Because anyone can paint a picture of the perfect life, but sharing the parts that feel messy or confusing, that's a whole different level of emotional honesty. And he wouldn't risk showing you that side unless he felt emotionally safe with you, which usually means he's in deep. You might also see it in how he handles conflict. A man who's falling in love won't just try to win an argument, he'll try to understand. He'll care about how you feel, even if it challenges his own ego. He'll take ownership for things, say sorry when it's hard, and let himself be seen in moments when he's not proud of himself. And sometimes, even in silence, you'll see the vulnerability, a pause before he speaks, a softness in his eyes, a tension in his body that tells you, this matters to me more than I'm comfortable admitting. The truth is, love creates emotional exposure. When he's really in it, he starts to worry, not in a needy way, but in a human way. Worry about how you see him. Worry about getting it wrong. Worry about losing something that suddenly feels incredibly important. That emotional risk he's taking, that's a form of vulnerability too. And you'll notice it not in what he says, but in the weight behind his words, in the way he slows down and chooses them more carefully, in the moments he gets quiet, not because he doesn't care, but because he cares too much to mess it up. So when you start noticing these small cracks in the surface, when the perfectly composed, always confident version of him gives way to something more raw, more real, more him, don't brush it off. It's not weakness. That's not oversharing. That's love, starting to strip away the layers. It's the sound of someone letting you in, one unfiltered moment at a time. When a man is desperately in love, one of the clearest indicators isn't what he says or even how he looks at you, it's what he's willing to invest. And I'm not just talking about money. In fact, financial gestures can be the easiest to misread, because anyone can spend money when they want to impress. But love shows up in where he's investing his most limited personal resources, his time, his energy, his mental bandwidth, and his emotional availability. People invest in what they value. It's as simple as that. If he's spending his precious Saturday helping a friend move, it's because that friend matters to him. If he's taken a course to improve his career, it's because he values growth. If he's rearranging his schedule, staying up late to talk, or driving across town just to spend an hour with you, that's not casual interest. That's intentional investment. That's someone whose actions say, you're part of my priorities. A man who's in love begins to make decisions with you in mind, not just himself. And that might look like subtle shifts at first. Maybe he starts thinking ahead about your week. He checks in more often, not because he has to, but because he wants to stay connected. Maybe he begins including you in his plans, inviting you to events, trips, or family gatherings, not as a box to check, but because he genuinely wants you there. He starts making room for you in his life, even in spaces that used to be exclusively his. You'll see the difference between someone who likes the idea of you and someone who's investing in the reality of a relationship with you. The former will show up when it's easy, when it's exciting, when it fits his mood. The latter will show up when it's hard, when he's tired, when he's busy, when life is messy. And when he's really in love, it's not about grand gestures, it's about consistent ones. The kind that says, I'm not just showing up today, I'm building something with you. Emotional investment is another layer entirely. That's when he begins opening up and asking deeper questions. Not just, how was your day, but how did that make you feel? Not just, what do you want to do tonight, but what are you struggling with lately? Love makes him curious about your inner world, and it makes him want to show up not just as a partner, but as a teammate, someone who's in your corner when things get real. Mental investment is also huge. If he remembers your goals, your fears, your silly little habits, and brings them up in moments you weren't expecting, he's mentally investing. He's thinking about you when you're not around. And that's powerful, because when someone's really in love, you become part of the background noise in their mind. They don't switch you off just because they're busy. They carry you with them in decisions, in thoughts, in the way they approach their day. And then there's energy. Love can't survive on autopilot. A man who's deeply in love brings energy to the relationship. He doesn't let it drift or coast for too long. If there's tension, he wants to talk. If there's distance, he wants to close it. Even if he's not the best communicator, you'll notice the effort, because desperate love doesn't hide behind laziness. It wants to engage, to work things out, to make the relationship better, not just for himself, but for you too. You'll also start to feel that he's not just showing up for the fun parts of the relationship. He's stepping up when things are inconvenient, uncomfortable, or require compromise. He invests emotionally, even when there's risk. That might mean being the first to apologize, or planning something that matters to you, even if it's outside his comfort zone. Love in action is sacrificial without being performative. It's not about what he gets, it's about what he's willing to give. So if you're ever wondering how deeply someone feels, ask yourself this: where is he investing? Is he making room for you in the way he plans his time, spends his energy, opens up emotionally, and shows up mentally? Because real love isn't just about wanting someone, it's about choosing them over and over again. And every investment, no matter how small, is a choice that says, I'm not just here for now, I'm here for you. When a man is desperately in love, something primal kicks in. It's not about dominance or control, it's about presence. It's about a subtle shift in his behavior that signals, this woman means something to me, and I'm aware of the world around her. He becomes territorial, but not in a possessive or toxic way. Not in the, you can't wear that or don't talk to him kind of way. This isn't about ownership. It's about protection and presence. It's instinctive, quiet, and emotionally intelligent when it comes from love rather than insecurity. You'll notice this energy in how he reacts to other men in your orbit, not with jealousy or accusations, but with heightened awareness. If another guy gets a little too comfortable around you, if there's prolonged eye contact, if someone else makes a move that feels just a little too familiar, you'll sense his attention snap into place. He doesn't have to say anything. Sometimes it's just the slight stiffening of his posture, the way he suddenly becomes more engaged in the conversation, puts an arm around you or places himself just a little closer to you. That's not control. That's instinctive care. That's his subconscious saying, I'm here. She matters to me. Being territorial in a healthy way means he feels pride in being connected to you. He wants people to know you're together, not to claim you like an object, but to acknowledge the bond you share. He walks beside you in public, not a few steps ahead. He introduces you with intention. This is my girlfriend, not just, this is Sarah. There's emphasis, there's ownership of the relationship, not of you. And there's a gentle staking of ground that says, this woman is someone I hold dear. A man who's in love also starts becoming more tuned in to how others treat you. If someone crosses a line with you, whether it's a rude comment, subtle disrespect, or a guy trying to test boundaries, he doesn't just brush it off. He doesn't start a fight or create a scene, but he does step up. Sometimes it's with a look, sometimes a shift in the conversation, sometimes a private word after. He's paying attention. He's emotionally invested enough to want you to feel safe, seen, and honored. You'll also notice it in social situations where you're both around other people, especially when you're looking great and naturally drawing attention. He doesn't panic. He doesn't shut you down. But there's a presence about him, a grounding energy. He might place a hand on your back, keep eye contact just a little longer than usual, or lean in during conversation, not because he's worried about losing you, but because when a man loves deeply, he wants to stay connected, especially when the world is watching. It's not fear, it's pride. It's a signal to everyone, I'm here. This is someone I care deeply about. And here's the important distinction. Possessiveness feels suffocating. It's fueled by fear, insecurity, and control. Territorial behavior from a man in love feels safe. It feels grounding. It doesn't clip your wings. It makes you feel protected, valued, and cherished. He doesn't need to limit your freedom because he's secure in what you have. His energy says, I know you can choose anyone. I'm just making sure you know I'm still choosing you. This kind of territorial love also shows up in emotional moments, not just physical ones. If someone's been unkind to you or if you've been hurt, he takes it personally, not in a defensive way, but in a deeply empathetic way. You'll hear him say things like, "That's not okay," or "If I'd been there, I wouldn't have let that happen." He feels your pain, not because he wants to rescue you, but because he's emotionally connected. He wants you to feel shielded, understood, supported. And perhaps the most telling sign is that his territorial energy never limits your independence. It amplifies it. Because he's not trying to own you, he's trying to stand beside you. He's not intimidated by your light. He just wants to be the one holding your hand when the whole room sees it shine. This subtle but powerful instinct doesn't speak loudly. It doesn't need to. When a man is in love, his actions whisper, "I've got you." And that's more powerful than any possessive outburst will ever be. When a man is deeply, desperately in love, his language begins to shift. Not in some rehearsed or strategic way, but naturally, organically, without him even noticing it. One of the clearest signs is what I call future mirroring language. It's when he starts talking about the future and includes you in it, without hesitation, without qualifiers, without even realizing he's doing it. His words begin to reflect the emotional reality he's living, that in his mind, you're already part of what's next. This doesn't mean he's proposing tomorrow or outlining a 10-year plan on your third date. It's more subtle than that, but far more powerful. It's the way he stops saying "I" and starts saying "we." He begins to think in terms of a shared life, and it shows up in his language long before he makes any grand romantic gesture. You might hear it when he says something like, "We should try that new restaurant sometime," or "We need a lazy weekend soon," or "That would be a perfect vacation spot for us." Those might seem like throwaway comments, but they're loaded, because he's not just talking about today, he's already placing you in his tomorrow. You'll hear it when he starts making plans that extend beyond the immediate future. When a guy is casually dating or still unsure, he'll avoid talking too far ahead. He'll keep things vague. Sometime we'll see. But when he's in love, his language becomes more certain, more rooted. He's talking about concerts 3 months from now, or holidays next year. He's thinking ahead, and you're part of the picture. It's his way of saying, "I see you in my life long term," without needing to spell it out. Sometimes the language comes in the form of curiosity. He'll ask about your future plans, not just to make conversation, but because he's trying to see how your path lines up with his. He wants to know what you dream of, where you see yourself living, if you want kids someday, how you feel about traveling, about careers, about building a home. And he's not interrogating, he's aligning. He's gathering information to answer the question that's slowly forming in the back of his mind. Can I build my life with this person? He might also begin using language that involves shared responsibility or decision-making. Phrases like, "We should probably look at our schedule," or "We need to figure out how we're doing this," begin to pop up. Again, these aren't just habits of speech, they're reflections of a psychological shift. He's starting to think like a unit. Even in the smallest things like grocery shopping or weekend planning, you'll hear it. And when a man shifts from "me" to "we," it's not just a sign that he's in love, it's a sign that he's committed at a level he might not even fully understand yet. Another powerful aspect of future mirroring language is how he talks about his dreams and goals. You'll notice he doesn't just tell you what he wants, he frames it with you in mind. He might say, "I've always wanted to live by the water. I feel like we'd love that lifestyle." Or, "I want to build something that gives us freedom." These kinds of statements are meaningful because they're not just about what he wants for himself, they're about what he envisions with you. And here's the part that's really telling. This language often slips out during casual, unguarded moments, when you're just lying on the couch talking about nothing, when you're laughing over dinner and he says, "I could do this every night for the rest of my life." He doesn't say it to impress you. It's almost like he's thinking out loud. His guard is down, and what comes out is the future his heart is already imagining. The shift to future mirroring language is one of the deepest signs of real emotional investment, because it's not about romantic gestures, it's about how he's starting to wire you into his life. It's the way his mind starts to bend time around you, bringing you into conversations that used to be solo. That language, whether it's intentional or accidental, tells you one very important thing. In his heart, you're already home. When a man is desperately in love, there's a subtle but powerful instinct that emerges. He wants to protect you. Not in a way that undermines your independence or suggests you can't handle things on your own, but in a way that shows he's emotionally invested in your safety, your well-being, and your peace of mind. This kind of protection isn't loud or possessive. It's quiet, constant, and deeply respectful. You'll feel it when he walks you to your car without making a big deal out of it. When he checks in to make sure you got home safe, not because he doesn't trust you, but because he cares. When you're feeling unwell or overwhelmed, he shows up, not with all the answers, but with presence, with a "what do you need" energy that's about being there, not fixing you. He watches out for you, not because he thinks you need saving, but because love sharpens his attention. He notices when you're uncomfortable in a room and finds a way to pull you into safer ground. He listens closely when something's bothering you and keeps it in mind even days later. And when someone disrespects you, you can see the shift in him, not because he's going to start a fight, but because he won't let you be treated like you don't matter. This kind of protectiveness is rooted in deep respect. It doesn't tell you what to do or where to go. It doesn't set rules or issue ultimatums. Instead, it says, "I've got your back," without needing to be asked. And when a man is in love like that, his protection doesn't come with conditions. It comes with commitment. Okay, so here's the truth. When a man is desperately in love, it doesn't always show up with fireworks or dramatic declarations. It shows up in the quiet shifts, the way he protects you without caging you, the way his language starts to wrap around a shared future, the effort he puts in even when no one's watching, the way he lets his guard down and lets you see the real him. It shows in how he shows up. These 6 subtle psychology cues aren't about manipulation or tricks. They're reflections of emotional depth, presence, and real connection. They aren't loud, but they're powerful. Because love, when it's real, doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers in the way he touches your back when you cross the street, in the way he remembers what matters to you, in the way he quietly lets the world know you are his person. So if you're seeing these signs, don't second guess them. Don't let the absence of dramatic romance distract you from the depth of what's unfolding. Because when a man loves you with his whole heart, it's not always about what he says. It's about how he loves you when he thinks you're not even noticing. And that's when you'll know it's not just love, it's real.